Welcome to On the Table, a podcast about board games, card games, and tabletop war games. Welcome back to episode 97 of the On the Table Gaming Podcast. My apologies for the delay in this episode, but I'm excited to be back. And today I'm joined with Evan from the YouTube channel Wargaming Indonesia. Evan, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Hi, Chase. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's always exciting to connect with someone who shares a love of this game, and I know it's maybe not your main faction, but I do appreciate your free folk videos when you bust them out on your channel.
Yeah, I mean, Lannister has always been my main faction, both from a flavor perspective, because I'm a huge Lannister fans for the books. I know they're like the evil guys, so to speak, but they're my favorite faction. Start out with them. Free folk is a recent fling that I've gotten recently, and they've been quite an interesting faction to play.
So if you guys haven't checked them out, be sure to head on over to Wargaming Indonesia's YouTube channel. You got some great battle reports up there, and you've broken through that 100 subscriber mark, and I hope you keep going strong. I love the stuff you're putting out.
Thanks. I mean, personally, that's a huge milestone. I started this whole YouTube thing just because, I feel like I want to contribute a bit more to the community.
Yeah.
And it seems that, there has been some positive comments about it and been getting some views. So it's all been very, very, very helpful for me personally. So thanks a lot.
Yeah, no, I really enjoy your content. I mean, that's something I feel like as someone who dabbles in some video creation as well. I don't do battle reports, but I can appreciate like how much time and effort you put into that, and it like really shows. But maybe before we get into all that and a Song of Ice and Fire stuff, have you always been a tabletop miniature gamer? Like, how did you get into gaming in like the first place?
So I think my main base is from card games. So I've always been like a huge Magic player.
Okay. That makes sense then when you're playing Lannisters then.
Yeah. I mean, like the whole counter plot thing just resonates with me because I'm a blue player.
Oh, sorry, there's a little bit of judgment here now, but go ahead, keep going.
But I mean, but my basis has always been card games. And then at one point, there was when we were playing at this card shop on the third floor of this store. The first floor was a shop that sells Warhammer. So every single time we would go up to the third floor to play Magic, we would then pass through like all these figures of Warhammers, look, dwarves, elves, chaos, and people are just sort of playing with them, and they look so cool. So the whole radiation of the wargaming was sort of there, and then you ask for a demo game or two, and then it just sort of hits on from there. So then I started playing Warhammer Fantasy, Warhammer 40K, and then the rest is just history.
Fair enough. And so how did you find your way to A Song of Ice and Fire then?
So that one was quite interesting. So I think I started at around 2018, about 2 years ago, and I believe we in Indonesia, the community of wargaming was in a bit of a slump at that moment. Most of the tabletop gamers have not been playing for a while. People have just been playing to other games, playing board games, playing card games, etc. And then we saw one of our guys started playing this A Song of Ice and Fire. He got the Kickstarter set about Lannister and Stark, and they were just playing it. And the first model that caught my eye was the mountain that rides. And I'm like, oh, what is this? This looks absolutely cool. And then it just started from there. I started playing. We looked at the game. It was really, really good. It had a lot of appeal that Warhammer Fantasy had. It had rank and file system. It had the whole like unit movement things, etc. But there was a bit of a knee-jerk reaction when you compare it to Warhammer Fantasy, especially back in the days. But then when you look at the system, at how simple it was, there was a lot of depth to the game. Alternating activation was something new in wargaming back then, because I used to play War Machine. I used to play 40K, where we just sort of sit on our seat and just wait until what the opponent is trying to do, and it's back to our turn. Yeah. But now you sort of have to sit on the edge of your seat every single time you want to play something, because it's alternating activations.
And there's like the tactics cards too, right? So you're looking for moments to interact on the opponent's turn even further.
Yeah, so there was a lot of aspects that A Song of Ice and Fire did, which was quite good, especially for wargaming at the time. It had alternating activation. It had the tactics card, and because I'm a Magic player, it resonates to me. And then the tactics board was also something quite new. The notion that there are some guys outside of the battlefield giving buffs to your guys on the field using your politician was something gimmicky, yet it's a huge part of the game. So that was interesting. And then basically we got some of the guys to start playing. We've got a small community at around 2018. But then, so the funny part is that at around that time as well, we've began to start interacting with Ben's channel from YouTube.
Yeah.
So we've been seeing that, oh, who's this Blitz Minis? And they've been playing Song of Ice and Fire as well. And oh, they're in Singapore. And sort of like the Indonesian guys sort of having this sort of rivalry to the Singapore guys, going like, yeah, I'm sure we can take these guys on. And then around 2019, if I'm not mistaken, 2018, 2019, they were having a series of qualifications for the Singaporean national tournament. Oh, it was built as this Asia qualification. So they had a series of store qualifications where if you win in that particular store's game, you get a spot in. And so one day, like a bunch of Indonesians just went to like Gamersaurus Rex in Singapore and just sort of like, all right, we want to win this, and we did twice. Yeah, so that was basically what sort of fanned the flame of the game, was really because we know that we had the competition in mind when we started this thing out. I mean, it started out quite casually, quite chill, and then competition was there. We see like people are trying to sort of beat the players in Singapore, and then it became like the main wargaming in Indonesia for even up until now.
You guys always had a strong representation in the community, and Ben from Blitz Mini does awesome stuff. I know even early on, people were really interested in like how the meta sort of shaped up on that side of the world. It seemed like very different from what was going on in the US. I remember some of the early tournaments. I think it was well, maybe not that early, but there was a Lannister Kingsguard was doing rather well, and I think won some events. People were like, nobody was playing him here, and it was kind of always interesting to hear how that was working out.
Yeah, so early 2018, 2019 was a bit of a drought in terms of like how to get information, how to get army lists, etc. And I think one of the first few lists that got me interested was, I think, when they were playing in GenCon 2018. I believe Brett won that one, and he won it with basically FLayed Men and a bunch of, because FLayed Men back then was basically nuts. And so I think the natural knee-jerk reaction to that is, of course, I started playing the list, and I was like, oh, okay, this list is doing well. And, I took it to Singapore, and then we won in Singapore.
That's amazing. There we go. I mean, it's funny how like that's a unit that we don't talk about a lot anymore. There was a time when FLayed Men were all the rage. I remember in the early days, it was like before Pyromancers even came out. Everyone was like, how do we play against this? And now, not quite so much. They've had a few changes.
Sort of betterment of the game.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, that was basically the early stint of Song of Ice and Fire, and now 2019, 2020. Of course, with the recent things that happened in the world, there isn't a lot of room to go to tournaments. We've been having talks that we want to do this sort of Asia circuit for a while now. It's just that with the way things are right now, I don't think it is possible for people to even travel, even to Singapore from Indonesia, which is only like an hour flight. So I think we're just holding things off until maybe next year, and we'll see how it goes. And luckily, there has been tournaments online in TTS, and so the competition flame is still very hot, and hopefully it keeps up until next year.
So I've been kind of living vicariously through your videos and seeing people get to play. Yeah, I can't wait for COVID to start, or a vaccine or something. But maybe that's another topic for another time. But
I don't like to talk crossed. I don't like to talk about it, but the world will adapt in one way or the other.
I hope
and I'm sure Song of Ice and Fire will adapt in one way or the
other. We're the patient community here. We've got if you're fans of the books or anything, we're used to waiting, and I'm excited for cmon's organized play stuff. They started hinting at it with some tournament ideas, and I can't wait. If that's just the tip of the iceberg, I can't wait to see what they've got in store. So I know this year it sounded like most of that stuff is just kind of put on hold, and we're kind of riding it out. So we'll see what's on the horizon. Hopefully that just means everything's piling up, so we'll get a bunch of cool stuff all at once.
Yeah, I mean, we know Greyjoy is coming up next year, so that's something exciting to look forward to.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And what do you think about? Have you been enjoying the new sort of like article previews they've been doing? Have you caught
Yeah.
those? They've got like kind of a new art style. It's like the image and like the brushwork, and then they do kind of like a preview of like, here's what's coming up.
I think like the bread and butter of I think a lot of game companies is how they basically unravel the things that they're working on.
Mhm.
I know, coming from a different game, Magic is Wizards of the Coast likes to do this sort of spoiler season whenever a new set comes out with all the different types of articles, all the slow reveal, etc. Even things like in Fantasy Flight games where you have sort of upcoming unit packs or for like X-Wing or Legend of Five Rings for like a couple of months before. So I think it's something that that players are really, really looking forward to. They look at it and go, I remember back when, if I'm not mistaken, some of the hero stuff was revealed. It was a slow burn of a reveal, but it kept people on like an excitement level throughout like the weeks up until the release. I remember when Mike always posted up, oh, here's the spoilers for like this particular hero,
Yeah.
especially during the Baratheon hero eras. My God, people were just when you have like one snippet comes out and then suddenly like we see 10 lists pop up in like the Discord servers of people
Yeah.
trying to like going like, oh, this is the build for this particular commander. Oh, this is the build for this particular attachment. That was really exciting. That was really, really exciting, and I feel that game companies or even communities should take that and use it as a powerful tool to basically engage with everyone.
And it seems like that's what they're really trying to do here. I know we're kind of in the current period. I know a lot of stuff was spoiled not too long ago, but I'm excited to see that they're really trying to focus on a new kind of strategy of pushing things out. With articles before things are released. Ideally when they're coming out. Hopefully, this is a trend that they continue on doing, as well as the teasers like from the dev team in the Facebook group, etc.
It's just unfortunate that the recent spoilers have been at that level.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Again, I don't want to comment on anything, but this is something that's given players a lot of excitements. If you see like Discord when they revealed Mammoth, when they revealed Dragon, suddenly Slaver's Bay,
Oh yeah.
was up, and basically going like, oh yes, Dragon is the savior of Targaryen, and then on the flip side you see Dragonstone and Doom and Gloom going like, all
Yeah.
right, how do we do the
All those
dragons?
Baratheon players are like, wait a second. We are crispy. So we'll see what the future holds in store. I'm excited to see them, as the game's grown, to see how see what's kind of adapting, and especially with this year, it's been kind of weird. So hopefully, we've got all this cool stuff coming out. We got a whole new faction coming out, which is definitely gonna like shake things up. Do you think you'll pick up Greyjoys?
I'm holding out for Martel.
Oh, okay. Good call. We'll see. Hopefully, we had something. I can't believe it. I mean, this year has been both like the longest year, and I can't believe how far we are into it. But maybe we'll have something at CMon Expo in the spring, not that long after Greyjoys.
You mean it's not May anymore?
It's not May anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think the reason why, and this is what is interesting about the whole CMON design faction principle. There's always two factions that are completely opposite of each other in terms of both design. In terms of design, like it's most apparent with Baratheon and Targaryen. One is meant to be a slow-moving tank with retribution, and one is like highly mobile, highly glass cannon with like movement tricks. So you have Greyjoy, and there should be like the second faction that represents the opposite design principle of Greyjoy. So that's why I think Martell is coming out.
I'm excited. Yeah, I wonder what it'll be like. Any predictions? You want to go out there and make any predictions on
Uh,
what they might be like?
so the hot take is that from the limited things that we see from Greyjoy is that they get benefit from depleting the ranks of the opponent.
Mm-hmm.
What I think Martell will have is basically things that gives them benefits on the early stages of the game or when they have a full rank.
Okay. So like, oh, that makes sense actually. Yeah. So you want to keep everything like topped off at full health. I wonder if the Martells in the books are, oftentimes being focused on in like sort of more of the political machinations of things. I wonder if that would maybe play into it. Things that like you rewarded more for playing the tactics board, keeping your units healed up or something.
Traditionally, Martell in the books has always been sort of like the guerrilla faction.
Mm-hmm.
they are the only faction after all not to bow down to Targaryen. They had to marry them off to basically get. So that should be represented in a way that basically the Martels are relatively squishy, but they fight hard when they're at like extremely like full rank, and then they started depleting when So we'll see. I think that could be an interesting design principle, but who knows? We'll have to see spoilers for Greyjoy first before we can say anything.
Keep our fingers crossed. So what have you been playing these days? What you're playing Lannister. I see you playing some Free Folk on the channel. Any particular lists that you're having fun with?
So I've got two lists here that that is featured on the channel recently. Let's talk about the first one. Unfortunately, so this one is basically a Tyrion list that I piloted for the TSL League.
Mm-hmm.
It's up on the channel. Unfortunately, this is one of my first few videos, so the quality is not amazing. But people do improve. So this Tyrion list is eventually we came first at the TSL using this list. Well, using this list and the Sparrow list, I managed to score 8-1, so 8 wins and 1 loss. And I think this is probably the best Tyrion list that I can come up with the tools that we have.
All right, let's walk us through it here. What do we got?
Tyrion, first of all, Tyrion's is a unit of Lannister Guardsmen.
Mm-hmm.
People have been putting Tyrions in Poor Fellows, and I can understand the decision why. But I think for a commander bunker, having a 3+ armor is still the best. And I don't expect Tyrion to basically see combat at all in this game. So, just by having the turns of the 3+ armor save, you put a 3 next to it, it becomes a morale 6, so it becomes like slightly above average, and you have supremacy on top of that.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, Tyrion in the unit of Lannister Guardsmen. And then the next two choices, Knights of Casterly Rock is just a no-brainer. I think you need to have at least one unit of Knights in any Lannister list, in my opinion. They just provide you with everything, including ways to sort of abuse Tyrion's card. You can sort of move ahead to where the opponent think that they're safe. Then the opponent moves closer to that Knights of Casterly Rock because they know that they can't charge, and then you use Cunning Ploy to charge into it. So that's and Knights and simple for like 8 points. I think is just one of the best units that we have in Lannister. And then the next option is Lannister Crossbowman with Preston Greenfield attachment. So at first when I started making the Tyrion list, I thought that crossbow wasn't going to be used as much. However, I had a discussion with a friend of mine, Bloodraven from Discord, and we sort of came into an agreement that having a range pressure in a Tyrion is really, really good because you can sort of dictate where the opponent wants to be. And Lannister Crossbowman with Preston Greenfield is just one of the best ways to do that. You've got an accurate unit with attachment that gives you cards. And Tyrion wants cards. He desperately wants cards to make his ability even more like ridiculous. And then because the tournament allows Mount Undead Rise, of course we have Mount Undead Rights. But I can talk about Mount Undead Rise all day, and how he can be nerfed, how he should be blah blah blah. But at this moment, I think he's fine. We're seeing a lot of different solos from the design principle, and I think Mountain is a bit up there in terms of power and playability. But that's another can of worms right there.
Man, he's been an old classic there.
Yep.
I mean, he's killed many a free folk in my army.
Oh yeah. There was a moment in the I think in the Malta League where I charged using Gregor into a unit of Sworn Shield. I got like 3 crits. And then opponent failed the morale test. So in total, it dealt 11 wounds on a charge.
Oh my god. That's brutal.
It is brutal. Like it was up on the stream. I believe
no.
It's on Bazu's stream. He was doing like the Malta Gold on Dice coverage, and I think everybody just went, wait a minute. Okay, and then to continue talking about the list, the last 5 points, we have Poor Fellows, just a basic unit of Poor Fellows. Mostly there because I need a body to basically Cunning Ploy from. And Poor Fellow has a fortunate synergy with Cunning Ploy, is that they can still use their reinforcement ability even if you use the Cunning Ploy. Because reinforcement says when you activate, at the start of the activation, and then each time this unit activates. So it happens first, and then you Cunning Ploy. So they heal, and then another unit gets to activate.
Gotcha. Interesting. Okay, and so yeah, you're not putting Tyrion in there though, because you're going to be because yeah, interesting. Okay, so you still have poor fellows in the list, even though
Not use,
guards in there with you.
not bringing Tyrion. And poor fellow has a good sort of matchup also against things like giants,
Yes. Yeah.
things like wolves, even, and some of the, and even randomly can kill mountain if they're lucky,
Yeah.
which is also an unfortunate side effect of this unit.
And you've got your kind of combined arms force here. You got some like anvils. You got your knights. You got ranged units. You got a solo.
Yep, it's a pretty well-rounded list, and I think just to close off the list discussion for the NCU lineup, we've got the triple control of Varys. I think Varys is mandatory at this stage in the game. I think there's just a lot of effects that are quite busted, to say the least. Preventing Starks from using sudden charges, quite easily. Preventing Harma's sudden charge quote unquote cards is necessary for Varys. And then you have Tywin. Personally, one of my favorite 4-point NCU in the game. Of just you can tell a person is good at Lannister or not in the timing of when they use Tywin. I've seen Tywin just simply wins the game on the spot because the usage was perfect. And I've seen a very average Tywin which accomplishes not a lot. But Tywin is one of those, I guess, checks that you need if you want to play Lannister like competitively. When to use Tywin, when not to use Tywin, when to push the button, basically.
Are there any certain board states you look for to use that?
So I'll give you an experience in my league game, offline league game. So I was playing a High Sparrow list against Three Folk, and he aggressively moved one of his raiders up front to engage one of my poor fellows. I looked at it at first and go like, all right, why is he throwing swift advance to sort of charge into my poor fellows right there? And then it dawned, and then I looked at my hand and I go, I have protection of the father, I have mercy of the mother, this is not gonna go through. And then I looked at the unit next to the raiders, and it was a man's commander in a unit of raiders. And I went, wait a minute, he has counterplot.
Yeah.
So if he activates mans, he charges at my poor fellows, and then he plays group assault, that poor fellow will melt. So then I immediately go, okay, I push button, I'll tie him in. So and then he said, oh wow, that's actually, and then he went, and then indeed he has group assault. And then I went, protection of the father, and he's like, oh, nice.
Yeah.
I hadn't Tywin mans right there. I couldn't protection of the father, and then the poor fellow will melt to the group assault. So that was one usage of using Tywin. Know when the opponent wants to alpha strike you, or know when the opponent will commit to you, and then you basically Tywin that to basically says no. And then the second usage of Tywin, which is I guess the easier usage, is when you want to absolutely kill a unit.
Wipe it out the board, yeah.
You see a unit of, I don't know, Unsullied across from you. You have a knights ready to charge. You go, I press Tywin, I charge. And then suddenly they lose all their abilities. You give them tokens. They lose their position if they want to punch back. They lose their commander, because usually it's going to be a commander unit of Unsullied. And yes, that's the most easiest usage of Tywin. So yeah, two scenarios for using Tywin right there.
And useful even with Cunning Ploy because they lose it for the round.
A fun little interaction is also you Tywin a unit and you delay order that unit to activate. Disgusting, but yes.
And then I'm assuming your last 3 points is for Pycelle?
I mean, yeah. I don't think Lannister should get. I know people have been saying that. Oh, we need a second 3-pointer NCU, and I'm like, maybe not. But yes, Tywin is Pycelle is a 3-pointer, and just right now, even if he says he does nothing, I'll still use him. He's a 3-pointer. That's all that matters.
Oh, this was a great list here. Do you do like fancy names for your lists? What would you call this one?
Oh God, I'm terrible at giving names.
All right, yeah, fair enough. All right, fair enough. You get.
Yeah. And I think just because like the list it's one of those lists that I never brought out in like casual games. I swear not to use Tyrion in any of my casual games. Unless if a player basically says like, look, I need to practice for a tournament. I need to give me like your best list, and I whip out this list. But if not, then list is basically staying in the realms of just tournaments. But I think it's not necessarily that it's unfun, but I have to think a lot when I'm losing this list, and I don't like to think a lot when I'm playing this game. So the less time I have to think is good, because it is a casual game. Like you wanna play, you wanna have fun with your opponent. I don't think I want to do some brain exercises with my opponent.
Or melt their poor free folk, or mess with their mans. The poor man's Tyrion.
The poor man's team. Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. So talk about a casual list that the second list that I wanna talk about is also up in the video. I was up against my friend who's playing a Baratheon, and he brought a 9 activation list Baratheon using Mel. And I'm like, all right, let's try it. This list, I actually gave a name to the list because I think it's a fun little list. I call it the Man's Chonkers list. So I was trying out the 2 Walrus clan chieftain.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So because Free Folk got a new attachment, Walrus clan, and some people have been lamenting that they're like, oh, they're overcosted at 2 points, etc. But I feel like I should try it because why not? Because there are other attachment in Free Folks that are skin change. So the list is a very not typical man's list. We've got 2 units of raiders. Both of them has Walrus clan chieftain on top of it. One of them has skin changers. Particularly, I think we put some bear in for just extra punching power and a bit of extra survivability because bear. 2 units of trappers. Sorry, 3 units of trappers. One of them has mans on it. And then 1 unit of Savage Giant. So the idea behind this list is that you create a wall of raiders with man's trapper behind it. So then you have a bubble of 5+ morale raiders and trappers with the 2 Walrus clan chieftain, so that they give them giant profile. So effectively, you've got 24 wounds on 1 raider. And you have 2 of them, so you have 48 wounds on both of those raiders, with a giant on the side, smashing through the countryside. And then you have mans on the back, giving protection with his counter strategy, cutting strategy.
Oh, yeah.
And then, of course, making them morale 5, so they're immune to sort of any morale shenanigans. And then you just slap a 3 next to it, and suddenly it becomes morale 4.
Oh my gosh, that looks like a fun one. I'm gonna have to try that out.
So, and then for the NCU, it's I use Steer because Steer is kind of mandatory for Free Folks to bring Steer, just because it provides a lot of punching power. And then I put Ygritte. I'm not sure whether I want to put Ygritte or not, but I already have Lady Val as my next NCU, and I don't want 2 zone replacement effects. So Ygritte is there to just either protect the giant, because Walder exists. And then, of course, Lady Val to give extra mobility to the giants. So, yeah, the list is quite... I know Mickey's probably complaining that, now you're getting to see that Walrus clan does nothing because they just sit there and take the damage. But I think with some giants on the side, with some bears, with 1 bear running around, it might have enough punching power to sort of go through some of the enemy units, and then pepper them with morale with some hits from the trappers, and 3 trappers will basically provide the majority of the damage, and then you got mans to protect it. So if you're playing scenarios such as Game of Thrones, Dance with Dragons, you sort of move in like a column of raiders, which is quite interesting. And then you just stood there and hopefully weather out the damage.
Yeah, geez. And with only 1 Savage Giant, you have mostly insignificant troops, so they're not giving up a lot of points, even when they finally do kill your raiders.
Yep, that's it. That's the strategy.
Man, that's That's an interesting one. Yeah. I might try that one out.
But I do have to give you a bit of an extra caveat. I am considering dropping the third unit of trappers, and then dropping also one of the Walrus clans, so you only have one, and then you bring in mammoths.
Oh, yeah.
This list was made pre-mammoth, and
Then
I
you've
believe,
got a pretty hardy force then, actually.
yeah,
Between mammoths, giants, and those the Walrus clan unit, that's pretty tough to chew through.
and also like mammoth and mans has an interesting interaction. So, for example, you trample with your mammoths to the back of the opponent, and then your opponent next reaction would be, oh, I'll turn around to sort
Oh
of,
no, I see where this is going.
yeah, and then you use Mans's card that says, all right, if you're activating that, I'm going to trample again with the mammoth, and they went,
Yeah. So those predictable maneuvers are terrifying. Oh my gosh. Yeah, mammoths are going to be a lot of fun.
for you, not for your opponent. Yep.
Are there any upcoming units that you're particularly looking forward to, or things that you feel like maybe any holes that still exist for certain factions that you play that you'd love to see like a unit kind of fill?
So one of the units that recently, okay, not necessarily spoiled, but it was talked about by one of the French group, is Red Cloaks.
Yeah.
There has been, speculations about what the Red Cloaks can do, but at this moment, it's just in the realms of speculation. However, one of the things that you need to probably look at is the attachment boxes. If you look at the attachment boxes, you'll see some new attachment that you go like, well, this doesn't have a unit that goes with it yet, and those probably will give you a bit of extra spoilers on some of the units that they are designing to complement that unit, because that's how the game is designed. For example, in Lannister, you've got the halberdiers and you got the assault veterans. So the idea is that you do want to get charged in, and then when you get charged in, the assault veteran ability triggers, so you get extra benefits from the assault veteran.
Yeah.
So for this newly announced quote unquote unit is Red Cloaks, that which has the attachment of the enforcer. So we're probably seeing some unit that either punishes the opponent for attacking, or a unit that basically gives you debuff for when you're near it, maybe. And we can talk about speculations all day, but I think what is necessary from a Lannister sort of standpoint is actually a good commander bunker.
And good as in resilient, because I mean, with the Lannister Guardsmen, we already have something like that, Or are you saying good as in just kind of not only resilient, but can also get in the thick of things and really be an offensive unit?
So more of that part, because right now I think Lannister have some interesting field commanders that's simply not being used because either they're just not very good, or simply there's not a lot of units that can support their ability. There's two that in particular come into mind, is Jaime and Tywin.
Mm-hmm.
Jaime in a unit of guardsmen just screams, "I will die" to morale every single time, and people will never engage that unit, because why would you charge into a guardsman that has both counterattack and supremacy?
Right.
That's just silly. So, and then for Tywin, because he also has supremacy, so you go, all right, I will engage you later once I've dealt with the rest of your army. So there has to be some sort of unit that exerts a bit of pressure so that the opponent will have to, unfortunately engage with it. And then that's when Jaime's tricks, Tywin's tricks, Tywin's supremacy, Jaime's counterattack, and defensive tech comes into play, because opponent has to unfortunately engage with the unit. So that's something that I would like to see. A unit that can stand in the thick of things, might not be like extremely combat proficient, and that's fine, but to give either like a debuff to what they're engaging, or to basically give some opponents deterrence to punching it. So that's something that I would like to see.
And hopefully we have more news of that soon on the horizon. That'd be great to hear about. I wonder what the sculpts look like. So far, I mean, the sculpts have just gotten better and better for this game. And I feel like some of the Lannister units are Not all of them, but like, some of those like original core box sculpts. They're great, but I'm excited to see what maybe some more modern, heavily armored troops might look like.
I mean, you look at Roast Knights, and I think they're one of the best sculpts in the game.
Are they not amazing? I mean, oh,
They're amazing, and that highlights like some of the cmon's capability in doing sculpts, and they just
yeah,
kept getting better and better. Like honestly, the first few models was a bit vanilla, but some of the newer models have been really really eye catching.
that's been
I
fantastic.
yeah, I recently painted like Follower of Bones, and even the details in these guys are just like
Right, for a single mold plastic mini, like it's fantastic.
it is, and that contributes to like basically the growing popularity of this game because you just play it off the box. That's it. You bought a starter. Some games will say like, oh, you just need a starter to play, but not really. you
Right.
need to you need to open the starter. You need to assemble them. You need a bit of extra bits and pieces. But Civ is one of those games where you can just like literally you open the starter, you play a game.
And not like some of those Fantasy Flight games where it's like the base mode is you buy 2 of the starter and go. Although
Oh
I guess you
no!
could do that with free folk, but
Oh no! Oh no! I mean, I've got some bad experience with FFG. I played Netrunner. I played Legend of Five Rings. They, some of my friends go like, "Oh, you just need a starter to play," and I'm like, "All right, cool." I bought a starter, and then I started looking at the decks online, and I'm like, "Wait a minute, this needs 2 starters. This needs 3 starters."
yeah. But I think that's the appeal, right? A Song of Ice and Fire can be played so easily and, it's accessible to such a wide range of players. I think it's interesting to see. Like, I always just love asking people, like, what is your background coming in? Because, card players, board gamers, people who've never played a war game at all, but maybe love the books or the show. Everyone kind of gravitates towards like a different element, and the game really has those for everybody. Whether it's like flavor or whether it's like the tactics cards and counter plotting. Uh, uh, there's something there.
Look, Chase. Every faction now is counterplot, so it's not
That's true.
necessarily
That's true.
Lannister thing now.
That's true. I think it's just that it's been the years of the emotional turmoil of facing that though.
Oh, fun story here. I got a friend who initially got turned off for playing Song of Ice and Fire because of counterplot and supremacy. So it was early in the game, and I only had my Lannister starters, right? And he was like, "Oh, you got a new game. You want to give me like a demo of the game?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure." Then I played against him, and then he kept dying to like supremacy, and he's like, "What the heck is this game?"
Oh, was that back with the old morale with the before
Yep.
it was like a D3? Yeah.
So he was using Stark, I believe, like the Stark starter as well, and his Horn Sword attacked into my Lannister with Captain, and then I took only like 3 wounds from like the damage, and then I went Supremacy, and it took like 5, and he's like, "What is this game?"
Oh. Yeah, we've come a long way. And
we have
onwards and upwards.
we have come a long way with this game. I think right now he plays Baratheon. So he's in the camp of that, which is the don't punch me or I'll do stuff to you,
Right.
which is technically a Lannister thing, but in a different way. But it's okay, it's all good.
And so what do we got coming up for in the future on your channel?
So obviously we have some few games here recorded from our latest offline tournament. I was initially just the TO of this game, but then the 8th player had the flu, so he couldn't join. So basically, then we talked about it, and initially I was not allowed to play because the idea of the tournament was to give different players ability the chance to win, because otherwise, like I bring in my Lannisters list, and I don't think they can win against that. Like just honestly speaking. So initially, I was banned from entering the tournament, but then one of the other guys said that, "Oh, why don't you just bring a neutrals list?" So I'm like, "All right, I shall take on the neutral challenge."
Oh man! All right, so that'll be the next video. Will be neutrals that comes up. Is
Yep.
that
So
recorded?
I've got 2 recorded neutral games. for the channel. And I think some people are looking for some neutral gameplay, so that would be something to look forward to.
Absolutely. Any spoiler on who's the commander?
Well, neutral only has 2 commanders at the moment. I don't count Vargo as a commander. I'm sorry.
Oh, burn! Wow. Okay.
So yeah, it's Roos and Ramsey.
It's Roos. Yeah, makes sense.
So I got 1 game with Roos that I'm currently in the middle of editing. Should be out relatively soonish, if not Monday or tonight. And then the game with Ramsey should be up within the next week.
All right. Well, if you guys have not, for some reason, checked out Wargames Indonesia, make sure to head on over there, like and subscribe, and check out that channel. I love the stuff you're putting out there. Especially have enjoyed your Free Folk ones, but there's all sorts of good games on there as well. And it looks like you guys are having fun too.
Yeah, do let me know like what kind of things you guys want to look in the channel, because I've just been basically recording my weekend games. Have not really sort of gotten any feedback of what faction should I use, etc. I mean, I technically have all faction except Night's Watch. So do let me know what kind of games everyone's interested at.
I think your last one. I think the last one I saw here was the Mance versus Baratheons with the Roos. It was fun to see some Free Folk get out there on the table.
Oh yeah, that's the Mance chunk list in action.
And you squeaked it through there. You came back with vengeance.
that was a fun game. It was. I without spoiling anything, I think my morale.
Did I just ruin that video? I'm gonna be like, spoiler. That one. I mean, we don't know what happened in that video. I'll bleep that out or something. Go watch it.
Yeah, that was a fun match. My morale was really, really good that game, and I think my opponent was slightly frustrated at how good I was rolling.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
It was my pleasure. It's great basically connecting with other content creators, especially during these times.
Yeah. You're a bit of a haul away from me, but if I'm ever in Indonesia, I will try to look you up.
Well, I think if you do want to come in, I think when we have a tournament in Singapore, which is probably better, as in like it's probably more accessible to you guys. Or there's a tournament down in like Canberra. The CanCon is up, so maybe. I think those two would be probably better than Indonesia, as in terms of the accessibility.
Mm-hmm.
Would be happy to one day get a game in with you in real life.
Amazing.
That'll be exciting.
I'm looking forward to that. That'd be great. Well, thank you so much for coming on, and everyone, thanks so much for listening. I know we got a lot of exciting stuff coming up, but make sure once again, go check out Wargames Indonesia. And in the meantime, we hope you get your miniatures on the table.